I present to you the big MiSide iceberg, which will guide us from the most famous and obvious facts to the little-known and secret things surrounding the game. And trust me, Mita's franchise is way deeper than it seems. I don't see any reason to explain to you what iceberg and MiSide are, you should already know at this point. So today we'll go through 4 levels full of interesting facts, Easter eggs, theories, and creepy mysteries of the game. Like this video and subscribe to my channel for more. Let's start. Level 1. Well-known facts. The story. Let's start with the most obvious. The plot of MiSide begins with the main character receiving a message from a friend who advises him to play MiSide. When we start the game, we first spend a few days in the usual peaceful mode with a view from above. Later, we are fully drawn into the game where we spend time with Mita until we encounter certain oddities. In the basement, we find another version of Mita locked up, who gives us a ring to travel between versions of the game. So throughout the game, we move from one version to another, encountering other variations of Mita, as well as escaping from the Crazy Mita. Endings. The game has 3 endings: the main one, the good one, and the secret one. Getting the first 2 depends solely on our actions at the beginning of the game, but the third one requires special actions. The main ending, which is simply bad, can be obtained by simply completing the game. It is set by default and only requires progress in the story. In it, we try to reboot Crazy Mita, but we fail and become her latest cartridge. The second ending, which can be described as relatively good, requires little effort. To get this ending, it is enough to just not go where you're asked. You should not open the oven or check the ventilation with cartridges. And you need to hang the fallen magnets back up, taste the sauce, and also play with Mita on her console. In this finale, we stay in the game together with Mita, who, however, remains friendly to us. But it's worth noting that to get this ending, you must first complete the game at least once. And finally, the third secret ending. To unlock it, you need to know the password to the safe in the basement in advance. You can find out in the main ending, where Mita herself enters the combination 4970. If you do this at the beginning of the game, the main character will take a console from the safe and pull out a cartridge of it. After that, the game will end, which most likely can be interpreted as his death. Easter eggs on locations. This game has a huge number of Easter eggs left by the developers on locations. For example, in the initial places, there are inconspicuous details like little-known Russian memes or simply some funny details. Among the most interesting things here are a photo of a cat on a watermelon from TikTok, the famous Russian meme phone number 8800555355, funny inscriptions on all kinds of cans and bottles, as well as rubber ducks, which can be found in Mita's bathroom. If you find one in a drawer, another on a shelf, and another on your head, you can watch a little concert of those ducks in the shower. There are also parodies of popular game franchises on the disc shelf, such as God of Pain, See That Town 2, or President Devil 5. And among the books, there are memes about hobby horsing, a book called No, It's a Trap, or the captions, How Did You Get Here?, which can only be seen by turning on the free camera mode. Menu Easter eggs. Several interesting details are also present in the game menu. First of all, if you try to hover the cursor over the exit button, it will try to escape from you. We can also click on Mita's nose, to which she will react in slight embarrassment. And finally, sometimes, instead of the usual Mita, her distorted version with a wide grin may appear on the menu along with glitches and negative effects. If you gather all the achievements in MiSide, she will remain there forever as a kind of reward for completing the game. Details. MiSide is worked out to the smallest detail. From the very beginning, when we first spawn in our room, there are already several variations of it where small objects are arranged in different ways. Later, the clock on the wall shows the actual present time, the same as the computer. Also, many of the NPCs' actions in the game are detailed, even including those that we technically cannot see during gameplay. For example, the moment we hear the sounds of knocking, Kind Mita is in the basement banging on a pipe. This action is indeed synchronized with the sound, although we cannot see this in any way without turning on the free camera mode. The same moments are present all throughout the game, when, for example, Mita smiles after our upgrade to version 1.9, although this does not really get into the frame. It's very pleasant to see such a degree of elaboration on the part of the developers. Other game references. Throughout the game, the creators repeatedly leave references to other game series. I've already mentioned some of the parodies in the main characters room, but the game also has a reference to at least Undertale, Half-Life, and The Forest. In fact, many full-fledged levels in the game also refer to other games. For example, MiSide sometimes roughly repeats the gameplay of Mario Kart or similar racing games, Doom, Papers, Please, and others. Easter eggs in choosing a name. At the very beginning of the game, when we are asked to enter our name, there are several interesting Easter eggs. Mita will react in a special way and ask you to choose something else if you write the name of one of the developers, her own name, or swearing. If you add numbers to the nickname, she will allow you to keep it, but she will say that we have a bad imagination. The standby mode. If you stand in AFK for 2 minutes, you will activate the standby mode, where the main character takes a small game console out of his pocket. You can actually play this minigame and even get an achievement with a set of 25 coins. But most interestingly, this console has a unique interaction that can be activated when Cappy is nearby. When the player pulls out the console in front of her, a small scene starts. However, if you wait another 2 minutes after that, the player will get the console again, even though Cappy has already thrown it away. She will, of course, react to this. But if you get the console with Mita, she won't give it back to you. Level 2. Deeper Analysis. The developers. It may be hard to believe, but MiSide was created by only 2 people, known by the nicknames Mackincat and Umarai. The first one was directly involved in programming and also wrote the soundtrack for the game. The second one was engaged in character and level modeling, as well as animations. Both of them are from Russia and live somewhere in the Ural Mountains. Generally, a lot is not known about them. We can only say that both Mackincat and Umarai are about 25 years old. Umfend. Umfend is one of the previous games created by the developers of MiSide, which also served as its main inspiration. This is a short horror movie, and after looking at it, you will immediately see certain similarities with MiSide. It also has a mix of romance and fear, and, of course, a yandere. Umfend was released in 2018, and later, the idea of creating MiSide arose based on it. In MiSide, we can find a figurine of a character from Umfend on a shelf. Meaning of MiSide. According to the creators, the name of the game MiSide is short for Mita's side, and can be interpreted as being on the other side of the screen, on Mita's side, or as Mita's duality and reveal of her crazy side. Rule 34. I don't think this will come as a big surprise to you, but there is a huge amount of MiSide pornographic content on the internet, including art and animations. I think, given the anime slant of the game, this was to be expected. Adult Easter eggs. Continuing with the previous point, we can assume that the developers definitely knew in advance that the game's characters would attract the attention of certain communities. Therefore, there are several Easter eggs in the game referring to adult themes. The first occurs when the player tries to look under Mita's skirt in the chapter The Fog, to which she responds like this. The second one has been seen and is known by absolutely everyone. It's a vibrator that appears in Cappy's hands for a second. Ciphers. Throughout the game, you can find some ciphers and codes with interesting Easter eggs. For example, at the first location, there is a book with a hex code cipher on the binding. The inscription stands for "You're finished." There are also a couple of short ciphers on the location that mean the Russian sounds for bite and kiss. However, the most interesting thing perhaps contains a disc with a parody of Silent Hill 2. Hidden on it is a small, desperate message from the developers encrypted in Morse code. The development of the game is stalling. We are not sure if the expectations will be met, but we have to keep going. I hope we can entertain you. Thank you for your purchase. There is also another binary code cipher present on the main character's ring and the collar of another player. It means ring travel. And finally, in a room with a core on the wall, you can find a strange cipher consisting of random characters. It stands for a selection of letters and means, once here, I couldn't return home. I can't remember my life. And when I hear about the real world, I start to doubt if the real world exists. Apparently, this inscription was made by one of the previous players who got stuck in the game. Crazy Mita. Crazy Mita is an early version of the character appearing in the old version chapter. She is known for being able to stretch out her neck, following the players in this way. This is a reference to either Rokuro Kubi from Japanese folklore or the teacher from Little Nightmares 2. Peaceful Mode. Peaceful Mode is a new game mode that the developers have promised to add to the game. In fact, it should be an expanded version of the 2D gameplay that we see at the very beginning of the game. There are no plans to add new characters in this update. There will only be Crazy Mita. It will be possible to unlock the Peaceful Mode only by getting the third ending, where the main character remains to live with Mita. And it will be a logical continuation of the finale. At the moment, according to the developers, the release of the update with a Peaceful Mode is scheduled for the first half of 2026. Secret Room. In Mila's apartment, you can find an Easter egg in the form of a secret room if you go through the wall in the kitchen. You will find yourself in a large, empty location with no textures, and it will also provoke a small dialogue. Mita Hider. In absolutely every chapter of the game, you will find one purple tin can with a sticker with a heart sketch on it. This is an Easter egg. The true meaning of this has not fully been revealed so far, but most fans agree that the presence of these cans in all locations should indicate that Crazy Mita is always one step ahead of us. Seasonal Modes. MiSide has two special modes dedicated to Halloween and Christmas, which are activated only on certain dates. The first one introduces decorative changes to the game, such as jack-o'-lanterns on certain locations or the scars on the main character's face. It is active only on the 31st of October. The second one designs locations in a Christmas style, puts a red fur coat on Mita, and adds a stylized cursor. It is activated respectively from December 29th to January 7th. If you want to try out these modes, just change the date on your computer. Level 3. Dark Secrets. Giant Monster. At the Fog location, you can see the silhouette of some kind of colossal monster. He has an axe-shaped head and a bunch of sharp teeth, large claws on his hands, and disproportionately thin legs. All this huge creature is doing is slowly passing by. There is still no information about what this is. The monster doesn't have a texture because it's a 2D animation, so the giant doesn't even have an official name. The Hanging Body. When we are in the dark apartment, a hanging body without textures will appear in the bathroom. If you look at it long enough, the silhouette will jump scare us. As can be seen from the tie, the body with the bag on its head should symbolize the player. MiSide Zero. MiSide Zero is a project created by the fans of the franchise. It was supposed to be a prequel to the events of the original game. Graphics and gameplay would be the same as in the official MiSide. The only thing that should have been different was the plot, which would have told the backstory of events from the point of view of the fans. Anyway, the project was recently closed due to conflicts within the creators' team and difficulties in development. Now, MiSide Zero is unlikely to ever be released. Mimic. If you look in the mirror for long enough in the main character's room, a creepy, tall, black and white creature with wires hanging from the back of its head will appear behind him. In the game files, the texture of this figure is designated the Mimic. There is still no specific explanation of who he is and what he's doing in the real world. Unless it is possible to assume that the character may refer to the series Five Nights at Freddy's, where there is also a mimic and a striped black and white puppet. Or, what's even more likely, this is a reference to Wire Lips, one of the previous games created by Cat and Umurai. 18+ mods. Returning to the conversation about Rule 34, there are also infamous nudity mods for MiSide. In them, the character models are replaced with their naked versions, and in some builds, there are more spicy things. Actually, similar content exists for a great number of 3D games. World of Warships collab. In the summer of 2025, MiSide launched an official collaboration with the online game World of Warships. The military strategy game has added cosmetic content dedicated to MiSide, which included a stylized ship skin, 3 commanders in the form of Crazy Mita, Mila, and Cappy, as well as special containers. In addition, a small portal campaign with various minigames was available. Long-legged Mita. If you walk far enough along a location with a long looping corridor, you can see a creepy Easter egg with a distorted long-legged Mita. This is one of the versions whose world was deleted, which has been wandering endlessly through the corridors ever since. Who sent the message? At the very beginning of the game, the main character receives a message from a friend with the initials MK, in which he advises to play MiSide. It is still impossible to say for sure who it was and whether he knew about the dark side of the game. Some suggest that the player could be a beta tester and this friend is actually the boss. However, this has not been confirmed in any way. The Bug Monster. In the chapter, The Loop, we are chased by a terrifying creature with a disproportionate black body, 6 insect-like limbs, and an ugly half-dog, half-human face with glowing yellow eyes. It is confirmed to be a corrupted player, which makes the creature even scarier. Trolling the pirates. When downloading certain pirated versions of MiSide, the game will detect that you are using the unofficial version and will simply mock you. So, if you try to enter your name at the very beginning, the input field will already offer options calling you a thief or a pirate. Most likely, such Easter eggs are related to the fact that piracy is widespread in Russia. Therefore, the developers already knew in advance that their game would be downloaded from third-party resources. Level 4. Theories. MiSide was created by the player. We are entering the territory of theories, some controversial and, as always, unconfirmed. So, this relatively popular theory says that the whole MiSide is created by who we play for. This suggestion is based on the fact that we can see the main character is engaged in some kind of development. However, this theory doesn't really fit in with the rest of the events or the facts of the game. The player was created by Crazy Mita. This is the theory that is the reverse of the previous point. And now it sounds much more plausible. It is possible the main character was never human and was created by Crazy Mita in an attempt to find someone who will never leave her. According to this theory, all the memories of the real world and getting drawn into the game were programmed for us to consider ourselves human. Kind Mita works for Crazy Mita. It's an assumption that the kind version of Mita has been on the side of Crazy Mita all along. If the second is perceived by the player as a villain, he will trust someone who appears different to him. This is why Crazy Mita could create the kind one in order to guide us according to her plan. Of course, this has not been confirmed in any way. How AI works inside MiSide. Many fans speculate about how the consciousness of different versions of Mita works. One of them implies that each version of the character is a separate AI, programmed with its own characteristics. Since they are in a mobile game, their goal should be to keep the person playing as long as possible. This means that a reward and punishment system could be built into their system, depending on success. So, in the presence of the players, the Mitas experience a kind of euphoria, and without them, withdrawal. This theory explains the motivation of Crazy Mita, who could have been driven insane by this setup after losing so many players. Of course, this is just a theory. But if you want to learn more about MiSide from the point of view of artificial intelligence, then you can watch this video on my channel. The player was never drawn into the game. There's a theory that suggests that the main character was never really moved into the game. It is possible that while we are playing the usual 2D mode, the program collected data about our appearance and voice. And when there was enough data, the game created a digital copy of the main character inside itself, which went through the subsequent events. This copy looked like him and had his character and memories, so it felt like moving into the game. The main character himself probably remained in the real world unharmed. This theory fits quite well with the actual assumptions about copying consciousness into a digital space. This topic was raised again in the video already and mentioned in a previous point. MiSide was a horror game in the first place. Another theory is that MiSide was originally conceived as a horror game. This is reinforced by the fact that Creepy Mita is in the earlier version. Her design doesn't look like a character created for a Tamagotchi-like game. In addition, we have Mitacore, whose appearance is at least unknown. It's possible that the game changed direction during development. Well, it was a lot. Even I, being familiar with the game, somehow learned some new details about it when creating this video. And that says something about the degree of elaboration of MiSide. Hopefully, the developers will finally share some new content about the game with the fans soon, because nothing particularly important has happened to the franchise for over a year. I've already made a video about this too. I think it might interest you. Anyway, thanks for watching right up to the very end. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel for more. Bye!